Okay, we're on the record.
Attorney Harmon.
Yes, sir.
This is Jay Hardison, the complainant. I just want to make sure this is going to be recorded.
I just turned the digital recorder on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. This is a contested case hearing in docket number 2020-0006. Jay Hardison versus Superintendent of Schools, Darien Public Schools, Board of Education, Darien Public Schools, and Darien Public Schools. My name is Valicia Harmon, and I've been designated as the hearing officer in this case. I'm going to note for the record that today is October 6, 2020, and that according to the digital recorder, it's 11:05 a.m. I know everybody's identified themselves off the record, so I'll just for the record say I have the complainant, Jay Hardison, I have Attorney Tom Mooney, I have Attorney Tyler Bishop, and I have Miss Marjorie Cion present. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect. So here's our new script, a little bit different. Due to public health concerns surrounding COVID-19, this contested case hearing is being conducted telephonically. All parties are participating remotely. I am here physically in Hartford at the Commission's office. The parties are reminded that the same level of etiquette and procedure is required during this telephonic contested case hearing as is required for in-person hearings. Based on what transpires here today, I'm going to prepare a hearing officer's report. The hearing officer's report will contain my suggested findings of fact and my conclusions of law, along with a date and a time when that written report will be considered by the full commission. A copy of that report will be sent to each of the parties by mail, and you'll see when you get the report when the commission will take that up. Please note that due to COVID-19, the commission will more than likely convene telephonically as well. Could be we're working on video, but for now we're doing telephonic. The commission will deliberate upon the report during that open meeting. It can accept my written report, it can reject my written report, it can modify that report in any way it sees fit at the time that it deliberates upon it. You're going to be invited to participate remotely in that commission meeting. You don't have to participate, but you have to keep in mind that the commission is the final decision maker. We follow the Uniform Administrative Procedure Act, which means very simply that I'm going to ask you, Mr. Hardison, to go first, present testimony, relevant documents. At the conclusion of your presentation, I'm going to pass the case to the respondents who can in turn present testimony in support of their position, relevant documents. Anybody who testifies will be subject to cross-examination by the other side. And this is the procedure that we're going to follow today so that I get all of the evidence from you nice folks into my record today, which is really the most important part of what I'm saying. As you all know, today's the day for evidence, testimonial evidence, documentary evidence, whatever you guys think I need to decide the matters at issue in this case. And as you know, the commission meeting is time for oral argument. You will come in, you'll have a copy of my written report, and you won't come in, you'll appear telephonically. And you'll argue to the commission that you think the hearing officer got it right because, or the hearing officer got it wrong in some way because, and you can use whatever evidence we get into this record today in support of your position with regard to the report, but you can't introduce new evidence to the commission. Prior to the convening of this hearing, the parties were directed by the commission to exchange copies of any proposed exhibits and to provide those copies to me in advance of today's hearing. I do have 2 stacks of documents, one from the respondents and one from the complainant, and I'm thinking that you all have each other's exhibits. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Hardison, thank you. Right. Mr. Mooney?
Yes, we have 2 documents from Mr. Hardison.
And Mr. Hardison, you have 14 exhibits, proposed exhibits from the respondents?
Correct.
Beautiful. Okay. So some additional instructions that the commission wants me to read into the record. The Commission requests that the following rules be observed by the parties and witnesses during today's telephonic hearing. Please mute your telephone lines unless called upon to speak by the hearing officer. You can mute or unmute your telephone by dialing *6 or utilizing the mute feature on your smartphone. I haven't had any experience with interruption or static. My hearings have been pretty good, but I read that in because it's something the Commission thinks is helpful. If you wish to be acknowledged by me and someone else is speaking, please wait until the person finishes speaking, and then just please state your name for the record and that you wish to be heard. We need to try to avoid speaking over each other in case this has to be transcribed. I will administer the oath before we start the hearing. All persons called to testify as a witness should stand, raise their right hand, and affirm the oath prior to offering any testimony. After I swear you in, you'll be asked to state your name. For the record, spell your last name and confirm that you have been sworn before you're permitted to testify. By taking the oath, you affirm that your testimony is based on what you know and that your testimony is not prompted or influenced by anyone. You may not speak to anyone during your testimony, nor consult any materials without first notifying me and the other parties that you need to look at something so that we can all look too. When a question is asked during testimony, just hesitate for a couple of seconds before answering so that if there is an objection, such objection can be stated and that I can rule on it before you answer the question. Also, if you're disconnected from this hearing, please call back. If you're unable to gain access, call the Commission's office, 860-566-5682, and I will stop the hearing and do my best to get you back on. Please note that this contested case hearing is open to the public. However, any person who has dialed in who is not a party, or an attorney who has filed an appearance on behalf of a party, or a witness testifying on behalf of a party, is not permitted to participate and must remain muted. Any person who is disruptive to the hearing may be disconnected by me. This hearing is being recorded in its entirety. A copy of the recording can be requested by contacting the acting clerk of the Commission. Any questions before I turn to the exhibits? Anybody?
Attorney Harmon, Superintendent Hardison here. I have one procedural question, really.
Sure.
What, with Phase 3 reopening, will everything still be done telephonically?
I'm not sure, Mr. Hardison. I know that we started to do these hearings telephonically maybe late August, so everybody's been trained on them. We didn't have a procedure, so we had to develop one. We're moving into video conferencing soon because I think that the Commission really wants people to be able to see, the hearing officer to be able to see the parties. I don't know how long this is going to go on for. I'm just kind of a soldier. I do what I'm told. But as soon as the procedures change, the order to show cause would invite you to come on in. But as far as I know, that's not going to happen for a while.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, Thomas Mooney.
Yes.
Speaking. I just want to assure that the hearing officer had received the motion along with the exhibit, the motion for a more specific statement, and further state that given that Mr. Hardison has the complaint, we're happy to hold that in abeyance and hear what Mr. Hardison's complaint is. But if it's similar to the formal complaint he filed, where he simply makes general allegations, we would then ask that our motion be heard for a motion for a more specific statement be heard.
You know something, Attorney Mooney? I don't have that motion. Was it filed? I have two stacks of documents. Was it filed? Oh yeah, attached to find the respondent's motion for more definite. Oh, sorry, I do have it. Okay, so I have respondents exhibits 1 through 14, and then I believe is that it's a big stack. So I think maybe they. Yes, it's if you filed it in this stack, it is here. Did you want to take that up now, or did you want to? I mean, I reviewed the complaint, the whole file, and it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a request for records, and that request, Mr. Hardison, is basically in my shorthand, give me all records related to the attached documents. And the attached documents are two bait stamps documents. One is DARPO 003849, and then DARPO 003850. So you wanted any and all documents related to those two documents. Is that correct, Mr. Hardison?
No, that was an attempt on the respondent's part to limit my. I requested all. Do you have the actual request in front of you?
Well, did you file it? Because what I have is what you say. I think this FOI request is directed to the Darien Board of Education collectively and individually. But when I go down, you say, I hereby request the following records from the Darien Board of Education, held in whatever form and wherever physically located, relating to, arising out of, or connected with the investigation of any and all matters referenced in the attached documents, bait stamp numbers DARPO 003849 and DARPO 003850, including without limitation any investigation. So I know you say it in different ways here, but basically what you want is any and all document relating to, arising out of, or connected with the investigation referenced in the attached documents. I'm reading your words, right? Not my words.
Right, but I then further amended that, and I think if you look at my, we get to, you tell me when you want me to go to Complainants Exhibit A.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's do this first. I want to know if I can consider, you have two exhibits, right, Mr. Hardison, A and B? Is that right? All right.
Correct.
So Complainants Exhibit A, do you have them? Oh, Exhibit A is the email. Is that dated December 9th? Is that right? At the top?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Also, one of the.
Hold on one second. Attorney Mooney, I have Exhibit A and Exhibit B here. Exhibit A is a one-page document. Exhibit B is the police report. Do you have any objection to me marking these two documents?
I do not.
Okay, so I'm going to mark, since we're on the record, I'm going to stay on the record. Complainants A is a one-page document. At the top, it says Marjorie Cion. It's from Ms. Cion to Mr. Hardison, and it's dated Monday, December 9th, 2019, and the time is 6:28 p.m. Complainants Exhibit B is a 3-page document, and on the top of page 1, it says Darien Police Department Incident Report. So A and B, let's just do the exhibits first so that I can have this evidence in. So that's Complainants A and Complainants B, and I'm just going to make a little note. So now, Mr. Hardison, I turn to you, and I ask you if I can mark Respondents Exhibits 1 through 14 as evidence in this case.
The answer is yes. I'd just like to point out, I believe Respondents Exhibit 3, I think, I'm not sure, which is identical to my Exhibit A.
Okay, but I'll mark it anyway. That's okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Joe. I appreciate that. So I'm not going to take time to actually mark these because they're big and they've been bundled very nicely by my paralegal. But Respondents Exhibits 1 through 14 and Complainants Exhibits A and B are part of this record. And with that, we have all the evidence in. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Hardison, and you, Ms. Cion, to please stand, and I'll stand with you so you don't feel funny. We'll all stand. And raise your right hand and take the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning the case now in question will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury, as the case may be? Mr. Hardison, do you say yes to that?
I do.
Ms. Cion?
Sorry, I was muted. I do.
Okay, thank you. And so, Mr. Hardison, can you state your full name and spell your last name for me?
Joseph H. Hardison III, last name Hardison.
Sure. And Miss Cion, could you do the same, please? State your full name and spell your last name for me.
Marjorie Cion, Cion.
Thank you very, very much, both of you. I am going to ask you, Mr. Hardison, to walk me through what brings us here today.
Okay.
Okay?
Are we ready?
Yeah, it's you've got the floor.
Okay, perfect. I filed a FOIA request, I believe it was July 17th, 2019.
Right.
Requesting not only all those state stamp documents, but then I further amended that request regarding any police report, because as I noted in my Exhibit A, in her email response to Mrs. Cion, to her production of some of my FOIA requests, that I've been told by knowledgeable sources that, and several documents seem to indicate as well, that there was a police report related to my FOIA request, which was received by the Board of Education.
Okay.
So
Mr. Hardison, do this for me. You made a request on July 17th, 2019, right?
Right.
And in that request, I know, I have it here. It's in the file. I don't have it. I kind of paraphrased it a little bit. But after you made the request, what did you receive from the respondents? I know that I've seen Exhibit A before because it was part of it was attached to your complaint. So I'm glad you marked Exhibit A. But so what happened after you made the request? I heard something about installments, and I heard something. What did you receive after you made your request?
Well, as evidenced by all the respondents' exhibits, I received multiple installments of documents.
Okay.
Some related, some I didn't think were related to my FOIA request, but be that as it may, I had been told by knowledgeable inside sources that there was a police report related to Mr. Trifone regarding potential money laundering, etc.
Okay, so you had all the installments, right? How many installments? Well, I may hear, if you don't know how many exactly, I'll hear it from the respondents, I'm sure. But how many did you receive everything that, like Exhibits 1 through 14, did you receive all of those as part of your installments?
I believe I did, with the exception of one, which was Mrs. Cion had, and they indicated, she said it was too voluminous to put on a USB drive,
right.
Send by, she had put it on a USB drive, and I completely forgot about it. She did tell me to come by and pick that up.
Okay, all right, so all of them except for one, okay.
Right.
Okay, and then after you received those 13 different documents, you wrote back to the respondents and said, hey, I think there's a police report somewhere, right?
Well, it was in the midst of their production.
Okay, in the middle, okay.
That's when I wrote back at Exhibit A.
Okay. Okay, what happened?
So then I got the response in Exhibit A, December 9th, 6:28 p.m. from Mrs. Cion.
Okay.
Stating Mr. Hardison, I've confirmed with Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Mrs. Ottman that they have not received a police report relating to Mr. Trifone.
Okay, and then you filed your complaint, right?
No, I filed it prior to that.
Oh,
so they were producing these installments.
No, I think that your complaint is dated January 6, 2020. Isn't it?
Oh, my complaint to the FOIA Commission, yes.
Yeah.
My original request.
Yeah, no, the complaint to us. All right, so they said they didn't have a police report. They had checked with, Ms. Cion said she didn't have their police report. She had checked with Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Ms. Ochman, and they didn't have the report, and then you got that response, and then you filed a complaint with us, right?
Because I had 30 days from that point.
Right,
when they told me
right.
there wasn't one.
Okay, so when I read your complaint to the commission, it it seemed to me that you were saying, I'm filing a complaint because I think there is a police report, but then you say, I believe that there are additional elements. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. I believe that there are additional elements in the district's responses that are incomplete, are over-redacted, and or are false. So one of your issues in your complaint is that you didn't get the police report, right?
Right.
And what else, Mr. Hardison? Is it just the police report, or are there other things you're complaining about?
Generally, and I mean, like you said, you needed your fitness class to bring in all their exhibits, but I thought in several cases there were gross over redactions in material, unless they're going to say it was FERPA, and it may be, that I thought should not have been redacted. That to me, weren't even tangentially related to my FOIA request.
So you're complaining about the redactions unless they're FERPA, or even if they are FERPA?
No, not if they're FERPA.
Okay.
I would not complain about FERPA-related redactions, and they may be. I just thought.
All right. Well, we'll find out. So if the redactions are FERPA-related, do I need to look at them in camera, or if they're anything other than FERPA, you want me to look?
No, only if they're FERPA.
Only if they're. You want me to look if they're FERPA or if there's something other than FERPA?
Attorney Harmon, to be honest with you, I think this hearing, I'm not worried about that other stuff. I'm worried about the police report.
So is that what we're here to talk about today, the police report?
I am.
Okay, Mr. Hardison, though, talk to me a little bit about Exhibit B. Because what is your Exhibit B that I marked for evidence?
So that is the actual police investigation of Roger Phone regarding potential money laundering and theft of funds.
Okay, so that's the police report that you wanted them to give to you?
That's correct.
All right, so you're upset that they didn't give it to you, but you were able to get it. You don't have to tell me from where, but this hearing is about the fact, let me just see if this is right. This hearing is about the fact that you should have received Exhibit B from the respondents. Is that right?
That's correct. And can I go to Exhibit B and note one thing?
Sure.
On the last page, second to the last paragraph,
Yeah.
the commissary writes, on April 4th at approximately 1200 hours, I notified both Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and findings of my investigation.
Okay.
Now, in my Exhibit A, Mrs. Cion says she has confirmed with Dr. Landon that he has not received a police report relating to Mr. Trevone. So those two exhibits are in direct conflict.
Okay, so you want to know why you didn't receive Exhibit B from the respondents then, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing you. Sorry?
I was just going to say, I have other questions about Exhibit B as well.
Okay, well, from my perspective, your case is in, and I don't know if the respondents have questions for you, but may I pass it to Attorney Mooney to see if he has any questions for you?
Hang on, let me just look at my notes here.
Sure.
I guess everything I got left is for cross-examination.
You got it. Awesome. Okay. Attorney Mooney, do you have questions for Mr. Hardison?
Yes, I do. And I just, at the outset, though, want to be clear that this complaint is now limited to the circumstances concerning the failure of the Board of Education to provide Mr. Hardison with the police report. If that's true, then the motion is moot and we need not pursue it. I just want to be clear.
This is Attorney Harmon. I'm hearing Mr. Hardison say he should have received that police report from the respondents, and that's what this is about. So I'm passing it to you, Mr. Attorney Mooney, to see if you have any questions for Mr. Hardison.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hardison, you mentioned in your testimony that the police report shows that it was provided to the respondents. Is that your testimony?
Yes. I'm reading from my Exhibit B, which is the police report, that
provided to the respondent?
Can you restate that question?
Of course. Would not you agree that the police report does not state that it was provided to the respondent?
I would actually disagree.
Fine. And your disagreement, I'm presuming, is based upon the statement in the police report, quote, on April 4th at approximately 1200 hours, I notified both Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and findings of my investigation. Is that the basis for your accusation that the Board of Education withheld this report from you?
That's part of the basis of my allegation. The other is that I received the response from Mrs. Cion stating, quote, I have confirmed with Dr. Landon, who is mentioned in that paragraph you just read, that he is, paraphrasing, he has not received a police report relating to Mr. Trefun. That would appear to be based on the actual police report.
Okay, and what part of the police report, if any, are you relying on making your, you can't interrupt me, Mr. Hardison.
Right.
Let me start over. On what part of the police report are you relying in accusing the Darien Public Schools of withholding this report?
Well, clearly they received notification from the police regarding this investigation and its findings.
Mr. Hardison, would you agree that notification of results and actually providing the police report are two different things?
No, and the reason no is because in my Exhibit A, and I believe your Exhibit C or D or 3 or whatever it may be, Mrs. Cion responded to me that they had not received a police report relating to Mr. And that's false. They did receive a police report.
And what is the basis of your claim that, notwithstanding Ms. Sion's statement to the contrary, the Darien Public Schools received the police report which you somehow obtained through other means?
What is the basis of my statement?
Yes.
It's Detective Palmieri's finding at the end, or not finding, but statement that he notified both Principal Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon, the superintendent at the time, of the conclusion and findings of his investigation.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Hardison, I'm going to pass the case so that Mr. Attorney Mooney can call Ms. Cion. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Attorney Mooney, the case is with you.
Thank you. Ms. Cion, could you please state your full name for the record?
Marjorie Cion.
And what position do you hold with the Darien Public Schools?
I'm Director of Human Resources.
And what, if any, responsibility do you have for complying with Freedom of Information requests for records?
I coordinate and manage all Freedom of Information requests.
And I'm sorry to hear that the Commission printed up the tens of thousands of documents that you provided in response to Mr. Hardison's request. But is, in fact, is it your work that resulted in Exhibits 1 through 14 in responding to Mr. Hardison's request?
Yes, it is.
Attorney Mooney, it's Attorney Harmon. Can I just ask Ms. Cion, which exhibit did she ask Mr. Hardison to pick up? Just so that I have a little note about that.
So that one's not included, Attorney Harmon. It's too big. It was too big for me to send to Shipman and Goodwin. I have that still on a flash drive.
Oh, so it's in addition to 1 through 14.
Hearing Officer Harmon, I believe that is referenced in Exhibit 14, which is an email
Okay.
that makes specific
Okay.
Mr. Hardison has admitted to forgetting about.
Okay, flash drive. I see that. And just one more quick question before I forget. Was Mr. Hardison charged for these copies?
No, they were all sent electronically without charge.
Thank you.
And Ms. Cion, did you hear my question of Mr. Hardison about the basis for his claim that the Darien Public Schools were in possession of this police report but failed to provide it to Mr. Hardison?
I did.
And directing your attention to the police report, when is the first time you saw this police report?
Last night when you sent it to me.
And in the police report, Mr. Hardison relies upon notification about the conclusions and findings of the investigation to infer that, in fact, the district received the police report. Did you discuss with Dr. Landon the specific request of Mr. Hardison for a copy of the police report?
I did.
And what did Dr. Landon say to you?
He told me that he had never received a copy of the report.
And is Dr. Landon currently the superintendent of schools?
He is not. He was the interim superintendent for the 2018-19 school year.
And has his position been taken by a new superintendent?
It has.
And who is that?
That's Dr. Adley.
And did you ask Dr. Adley if he had received a copy of the police report?
I did.
And referring to Complainant Exhibit A, your email, you're under oath. Is that a true statement that you provided to Mr. Hardison on Monday, December 9th, that you have confirmed with Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Ms. Achman that they have not received a police report relating to Mr. Trefone?
That is true.
So, I'm sorry, Attorney Mooney, so Dr. Adley is now the current superintendent, is that right?
Correct.
And Ms. Ochman, could you just remind me what Ms. Ochman's position is, Ms. Cion? Sorry.
That was my next question.
Okay.
She's the chair of the Board of Education in Darien.
Thank you.
And Ms. Cion, have you heard from anyone else about the police report involving Mr. Trefone?
I have not.
And we have no further questions of this witness. I do have a brief argument to make.
Okay. Mr. Hardison, do you have questions for Ms. Cion?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mrs. Cion, you stated that Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Mrs. Ottman in your email, which is Exhibit A of mine, that they did not receive a police report relating to Mr. Trefone. You say you saw the police report, which is Exhibit B, for the first time last night, which says, and this is Detective Palmieri writing the investigation report, he notified both Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusions and findings of his investigation. So he did, in fact, report to Dr. Landon. Is that true or not?
I don't know independent. I mean, I saw that he wrote that in the report, but nothing came up in the email search.
Right, but would you agree that that is, Dr. Landon did receive a police report relating to Mr. Hunt?
I'm not sure I understand. Physical report?
Did Detective Palmieri call Dr. Landon and discuss a police report, or just, it doesn't even say call, it just says notify. Did he notify Dr. Landon about the conclusion of his investigation?
I think he did, yes.
So
document that exists, that we have in our possession.
That may be the case, but that's not my. Did Dr. receive a report from the police regarding Mr. Trevone?
Do you mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Hardison, do you mean, did he receive an oral report? Or are you asking, Miss Sion's testimony was that there was no paper, electronic, any kind of physical report in the possession of those three individuals, that she talked to Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Ms. Ochman, and those three people reported to her that they did not have a physical, whether it be electronic that was printed out or paper that was sent to the mail. So she's saying they didn't have the report, but you're saying that the consultation on the phone that's referenced in the police report, you want to ask a question about that, right?
No, I'm saying based on Exhibit A, she's not saying electronic or anything else. She's saying they did not receive. I'm quoting from the Exhibit A.
Right, because it's a records request. You're asking for a copy of a police report, and she's saying we don't have a copy to give you. That's the testimony here, right?
That's her testimony. That's not what she said in Exhibit A.
What did she say in Exhibit A? Let me look again. She says, I have confirmed with these three individuals that they have not received a police report related to Mr. Trevone. You've asked for a copy of a police report, and she says they haven't received it.
That first statement right there is false. In Exhibit A, that is a false statement. As evidenced by Exhibit B, which says that Mary did notify Ellen Gunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and findings of his investigation.
Right, but unless he sent Mr. Landon or Dr. Landon a hard copy report, then they don't have a report to give you, right? So you think they had a hard copy report, but they didn't give it to you?
I'm not arguing with what you're saying. My point is that's not what her email says to me.
Well, it's a records request, right? This is an FOI request. You say give me a police report, and she says we don't have one. Not that they haven't heard of one, but they don't have a paper copy to give you. Isn't that what she's telling you?
You're asking me to try to infer what she meant.
Well, why don't you ask her what she meant when she said, I have confirmed with Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Ms. Ochman that they have not received a police report relating to Mr. Trevone. Why don't you ask that question?
Because you can't go back now and edit or look into the past and change her.
Well, let me ask a question. Ms. Cion, when you said that you checked with Dr. Landon, Dr. Adley, and Ms. Ochman, and that they had told you they did not receive a police report, you meant, or did you mean that they hadn't received an actual hard copy police report? So, in effect, you didn't have anything to disclose to Mr. Hardison?
That's what I meant, yes.
Mr. Hardison? You want to ask?
That may be revisionist history, but that's not what Exhibit A says.
Okay.
I'd further note in Exhibit B, the third paragraph, on page 2, it's like the fourth or fifth paragraph down.
Sure.
Mary contacted both Ellen Gunn and Elliot Landon initially and informed them of the results of his email investigation. So this wasn't this reporting that they didn't. They received two different reports. One that he had already informed them of the conclusions of his email investigation.
Sure.
And he informed them. It states. I'm just reading from the third page of Exhibit B. He notified about the conclusions, findings of his investigation.
Okay. What else do you want to ask, Ms. Cion?
So those appear to be in direct conflict.
Oh, are we moving into argument now, or do you have more questions?
Oh, I have more questions.
Okay.
So, Ms. Cion, how well do you know Elliot Landon, and how long have you known him?
I've known him
I
for
question the relevance. I'll withdraw my objection.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can answer if you have the answer, Ms. Cion.
I've known him for close to 20 years.
And you know him well. You've worked with him in the past, correct?
I have.
Within Darien and in Westport.
Correct.
And he's a highly paid superintendent of one of the most, probably the most prestigious school district in Connecticut. When he came, both actually in Westport and Darien, is that correct?
He's regarded that way, yes.
And he's received numerous accolades and awards for his work as a superintendent at various schools and districts, correct?
Yes.
So, given that, you're asking both me as the complainant and the commission to believe that when he's informed twice by the Darien police of an investigation into the theft of money by a teacher, that he doesn't ask for a written report. Is that what you're trying to? Here's a guy that money was stolen, and it's a teacher in his school system. He's the superintendent, and you're asking us to believe that he does nothing else. He doesn't ask for an investigation report. He doesn't ask for anything. He just gets a phone call, and that's it, and it dies. Is that correct?
I'm not, that's not what I testified to.
What did you testify?
That we didn't have a physical copy of the police report.
Right, and my question says, so what you are testifying is that he got a phone call that a teacher, the Darien police had investigated, found that a Darien teacher had stolen money, and that he did nothing. He didn't request the police report, request a copy. He didn't pass on any disciplinary actions. He didn't do anything.
So let me this is Attorney Harmon, Mr. Hardison. So if what you said just now is true, he got an oral report and didn't ask for a copy of the police report, the commission can't do anything about that.
No, my point is, that's what Mrs. Cion is testifying to.
That they didn't have the report. And you're saying you find it hard to believe that he didn't ask for the police department to send him over a copy of the report. And what I'm saying to you is, even if he should have or shouldn't have, I have no judgment about it, but we can't do anything about the fact that he didn't say, hey, why don't you send me a copy of that? We can't do anything about that. That's way outside what we can do anything, we don't have jurisdiction over what he should or shouldn't have done. Or
Right, but your whole question presupposes that I actually believe him. And I've been given plenty of reason in the past not to believe him.
Ms. Cion, if you had a copy of that report in your possession and you received Mr. Hardison's follow-up email for it, would you have scanned it and sent it over like you did all the other exhibits 1 through 14?
Of course I would have.
I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. And Mr. Hardison, did you have trouble getting a copy of the police report, or did you just ask Darien for it, the PD?
Oh, I got obviously it originated with the Darien Police Department.
Yeah, so you called up the Darien Police Department and said, hey, I'd like a copy of that police report, and they gave it to you?
No, I'm not saying that. I have a FOIA request pending for this police report, which still has not been produced.
From Darien?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, but I have a few more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Cion, is it possible Landon lied to you and said he had not received any report from the...
I object. Calls for speculation.
It doesn't call for speculation. It's just, is it possible? I'm not
That
asking you
is
to...
speculation.
I'm sorry. You want to know, you want Ms. Cion to testify as to whether Dr. Landon was not telling the truth?
To her when she inquired about him having...
Yeah, I don't know how she would know that. I mean, she asked those three individuals, to search their records or whatever she said, that you wanted that police report, and they reported back they didn't have it. I mean, it seems to me, Mr. Hardison, that it wouldn't be worth Darien's while to say they didn't have a report that was sitting on their desk, because you're going to end up getting, it's a public record. You're going to get it. I mean, I know you think that, they lied and they had it, but why though? Why? Because you're absolutely entitled to it, and you have it, and, unless there's exempt information in there that needs to be redacted, it doesn't seem to make sense that they would have that police report in front of them and say to you, oh, sorry, we don't have it. I mean, why would they do that?
Is it possible Dr. Landon had lied to Mrs. Cion? That's my only question.
I don't know. That probably, yeah, sustained. What else? What other questions do you have for Ms. Cion?
Let's see. Basically the same question regarding Mrs. Dunn. So clearly, would you agree, Mrs. Cion, that Principal Ellen Dunn was notified by the Darien Police Department that a teacher in her school was stealing money? And again, she just said, okay, thanks. Didn't ask for a copy of the investigation report. Didn't file anything with you as the HR director who would have handled any kind of matter regarding that. Is that correct?
I object.
Yeah.
The question calls for the witness to speculate as to facts not within her knowledge.
Yeah, sustained, Mr. Hardison. There's no, all she can do is ask folks to forward her the records. She's the point person. She can't speculate as to whether they lied or not. That's not a fair question.
That wasn't my question. My question is, the police Exhibit B states that, does Mrs. Cion agree that Exhibit B states that Detective Palmieri notified Ellen Dunn of the conclusion and findings of his investigation?
Sorry, Exhibit B. Well, you know what Exhibit B states. It states in the second to the last sentence there on page 3. Yeah. The detective notified Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and finding of his investigation. That's what it says.
Cion, is that true?
That's what's
I
written in the
object.
report.
Is what true?
Sorry?
I object to the question. The question was, is that true? If the question is the police report accurate in terms of the detective notifying Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon, that is not within the knowledge of this witness.
That's not the question. The question is, does Exhibit B, which is the police report, state, on April 4th at approximately 1200 hours, I notified both Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and findings of my investigation? That's the
I
only question.
object. The record speaks for itself.
Of course that's what it says. It's in evidence, Mr. Hardison. That's what it says. I just read it. I just read it into the record.
But I haven't heard Mrs. Cion agree that's what it says. That's my question. It's either yes or no. She agrees with that or not.
So you want Ms. Cion to agree that the second to the last sentence on page 3 of the police report says, on April 4th at approximately 1200 hours, I notified both Ellen Dunn and Elliot Landon about the conclusion and findings of my investigation? You want her to confirm that's what the exhibit says?
That's correct.
Well, she doesn't have to, because I have the exhibit. It's a full exhibit. That's what it says.
So I'm back to my original question. So Mrs. Cion, would you agree that Mrs. Dunn was but then if you
If
object,
the foundation question, does she have personal knowledge, then after that foundation question is asked, then it would be appropriate to continue to question. But without that foundation, it calls for speculation.
Can you ask another question, Mr. Hardison?
sure. Mrs. Cion, are you the head of Human Resources for the Darien Public Schools?
I am.
And if you are made aware that a teacher is stealing money and that a supervisor who's now gone, but a principal who is still there, in fact covered it up because they didn't do anything with the report provided them by the Darien Police, what do you do as an HR director?
I objected.
Yeah, that's way outside. That's way outside my jurisdiction. I sustained. I don't know what to do with this line of examination, Mr. Hardison, because all you can do is ask people to forward you the records when you're the point person, and then they forward you the records, and you have to do a review of those. You know the deal. You know how it works. But I mean, you want to draw some. It sounds to me, and I don't know, but it sounds to me from Exhibit B that this investigator picked up the phone, talked to Ms. Dunn, talked to Mr. Landon, and then they hung up. And when you asked for the police report, it wasn't in the possession of the respondents. But does that mean they didn't know about it? No, I don't think that means they didn't know about it. It means they didn't have the hard copy in their files. I don't know what the commission can do about that. I don't think we can do anything about that. I know you don't believe it, but I have a witness under, right?
Right. I find it strange credulity to believe that the superintendent of a school district and the principal of a high school, when both informed of a police investigation that found that a teacher was in fact stealing money, and it's all documented,
Right.
that neither asked for a copy of the police investigation, neither did anything in a disciplinary manner to find out, one, whether it was true, question the teacher, discipline him for having done what the police found him to have done, in which apparently, according to Exhibit B, there is copious evidence that it did occur, and nobody in the system did anything. That cannot be. If that's actually true, that points to a massive cover-up, and the fact that none of these parents in Darien should be outraged if they find out that children are being abused in the system, money's being stolen, and nobody's doing what you're asking me to believe, or they're asking you and me to believe, Attorney Harmon, is that all this stuff happened and no one did anything. That is incredible.
It's a question or argument. I would object to Mr. Hardison's statement as factually incorrect.
I think we're moving. I think that Attorney Mooney. I think we're moving into argument right now, which is
That would be fine with me.
okay, Mr.
Or actually, I think before we do argument, and at the end of Mr. Hardison's examination, I just have a follow-up question of Ms. Cion.
Okay, Mr. Hardison. Yeah, go ahead.
I have two short questions.
Sure.
Mrs. Cion, based on Exhibit B, which is the police report, was Dr. Landon made aware of the theft of funds from Darien Public Schools?
I object to the question. It presumes the fact not evidence. In fact, the police report specifically says there was no ability to find that there was larceny involved, which is theft. So Mr. Hardison's question assumes the fact not only not evidence, but factually incorrect.
Mr. Hardison, can you restate your question, please? Just say.
Well, actually, I was just going to say, Mr. Mooney's statement is not true. They did find that money was diverted.
But this is not. No, could you just restate your question for Ms. Cion? What was your question again?
Was Dr. Landon made aware of the investigation results from the Darien Police?
Okay, hold on one second. Was Dr. Landon made aware Well, someone called him on April 4th. That's what the police report says, right?
Okay, and Mrs. Dunn was too. I just want to make sure we all agree on those facts.
Ms. Cion, does the police report on page 3 say that the investigator contacted Ms. Dunn and Mr. Landon to talk about conclusions and findings? Is that what you see it say?
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, that's what it says. Right.
Okay, one last question.
Sure.
I'm in about the largest paragraph on page 2 of Exhibit B, which is the police report.
All right.
It states, based on a review of the emails, it appears money diverted was used to circumvent BOE policies on depositing and requesting the use of the proceeds from the various fundraisers.
Mm-hmm. What's your question about that paragraph? Because that paragraph's in evidence, right? We have it. What's your question?
That's correct. My question is, would Mrs. Cion agree that diversion of funds circumvents BOE policies as stated in the police report?
I object. That is irrelevant.
Sustained. It's just not. It's not something I can have. I don't have jurisdiction over the substance of what was investigated. The only thing I can do is whether they gave you this police report, whether they had it, or whether you, as you say, they should have given it to you. That's very small jurisdiction, Mr. Hardison.
I understand. My only point in that question, though, is this is they found evidence of diversion of funds.
No, I hear what you're saying. You feel they should have had. You believe that they had that report and they didn't give it to you, and they're saying we didn't have it, and if we did, we would have given it to you. I get it. I hear both sides.
That is correct. But I'm also saying.
You want to wait? Let me, before you move into argument, let me see what Mr. Attorney Mooney wants to ask of his witness.
Wait a minute, I just have one.
You have another question, Mr. Hardison?
My only statement is it just strains credulity.
No, I get it, but that's argument. Hold on. Let me see. We're going to finish with cross, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you for argument, Mr. Hardison. Attorney Mooney.
Yes, Ms. Cion, you, in your cross-examination, did you hear Mr. Hardison draw an inference that Dr. Landon did nothing and should have asked for a police report?
I did hear that.
And I would direct your attention to the police report, page 2, and references made to receiving over 4,000 pages of emails from Shipman and Goodwin concerning this matter. And what role does Shipman and Goodwin play in the Darien Public Schools?
Shipman and Goodwin advises us on legal matters, including freedom of information requests.
And the reference to 4,557 pages of email, did that relate to the district's review of this matter?
Yes, it did.
I have no other questions.
Okay.
I have one.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Cion.
Could I just make one part of my testimony clear? Shipman and Goodwin has a bunch of emails that were given to Mr. Hardison, and I think they'll have to help me out in July on a flash drive. You had asked whether all of the emails, whether we charged him for any, and I had said all were electronic. There was a set of documents in July that I gave him on a flash drive without charge, but was able to email to Shipman and Goodwin. I just wanted to correct my mistake.
Okay, but you still didn't charge Mr. Hardison for anything in this case, right?
No, nothing.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hardison, do you have one follow-up question for Ms. Cion before I turn it back over to you for final statement?
Yes, the fact that the police report mentions 4,557 pages of email were received, does that mean that any of those pages were relevant for what I was actually seeking in the request?
I don't understand.
In other words, I was only seeking evidence of this police report and what it found. The other stuff is immaterial to me, unless there are further potential crimes or anything else, violations of policy. But the voluminous
I get that. I get that, Mr. Hardison. This is Attorney Harmon. I understand your point. So let me ask you this, Mr. Hardison. It's 12:05. Let me ask you to sum up your case for me. Tell me I think I already know it, but if you want to make a statement, a statement in summation, you sure can do that right now.
Yeah, I'll be very. The district did not provide this responsive record.
Yep.
Mrs. Cion emailed me on December 9th, 2019, stating she had confirmed with Dr. Land and Dr. Adley and Mrs. Otten that they have not received a police report relating to Mr. Casson. That receipt contradicted directly by Exhibit B, which says that Dr. Landon was apprised and did receive a report from the Darien Police regarding the conclusions and findings of his investigation.
Okay.
That's my first statement. So I think there's a problem with actual facts there. Number two is, again, it strains credulity to believe that these senior leaders in our school system received a report about a teacher who had already had multiple other violations and been suspended 3 times the previous year, or 2 years, that he is stealing money. It's documented and discovered and confirmed by the Darien Police. And they didn't ask for a police report. That's what we're being asked to believe. They didn't follow up. There was no disciplinary ramification whatsoever based on the police's investigation, which was reported to them. They did nothing. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Hardison. Ms. Attorney Mooney?
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly, Mr. Hardison is an intelligent man, and it strains credulity, to use a phrase, that Mr. Hardison would equate Ms. Cion's response on December 9th that we haven't received a police report, a statement given in the context of a records request, to somehow be a misrepresentation because Dr. Landon received oral notification of the results of the report. I can't believe that Mr. Hardison sincerely is taking that position, and it appears that Mr. Hardison is harassing the Darien Public Schools through this complaint when he says here on the record that after asking for thousands of records, that's irrelevant to him. That shows harassment on the record by Mr. Hardison of this school district. In good faith, the school district has attempted to respond to Mr. Hardison in numerous requests. In this very case, we see tens of thousands of records provided to Mr. Hardison, which he has now himself described as irrelevant. It is very straightforward. There's sworn testimony that Ms. Cion, in good faith, in addition to the tens of thousands of records provided pursuant to Mr. Hardison's expansive Freedom of Information request, he says now he's only interested in the police report, but the record shows that Mr. Hardison failed to respond to questions to narrow the request, that Mr. Hardison put the school district through the burden of producing thousands of records, and on the one point apparently he's interested in, he chooses to disbelieve the school district because any school district would have followed up. But the police report itself provides that through counsel, the district was aware of thousands of emails, and one can certainly draw the inference, without breaching the attorney-client privilege, that there was review of this matter internally by the Darien Public Schools. So the inference that Mr. Hardison is asking you to draw, that somehow the Darien Public Schools must have asked for a police report because they were otherwise doing nothing. There's simply no basis in fact for that inference to be drawn. This is outrageous. We ask that the hearing officer dismiss this complaint, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you both very much. I'm going to close it out at 12:10. Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Very briefly, Mr. Hardison, because I think I have everything I need, but go ahead.
Well, Attorney Mooney made the assertion that I am harassing Darien Public Schools with this FOIA request and potentially with other FOIA requests I've made in the past. I've
Hardison, let me ask you a question. This is Attorney Harmon. So exhibits 1 through 14, and then there's still a flash drive waiting for you over with Miss Cion, right? That you didn't pick up yet, the flash drive.
Correct.
They didn't charge you for exhibits 1 through 14, right? They emailed them to you.
Correct.
And are you going to go pick up that flash drive, or do you think you'll go get it?
I do, next time I'm in town.
Okay. And so, in all the documents that they've emailed you and the ones that you haven't yet picked up, are you telling me that none of the documents were responsive to your request? Is that your testimony?
No, they were responsive to the fringe of my request.
Okay.
But the focus of my request, I knew, as I stated in my email to Mrs. Harmon, to which she responded, or to Mrs.
Cion. That's okay.
Cion. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I said she starts producing multiple installments with hundreds of documents.
Right. Right, but no, because I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I have these documents stacked up in front of me, and I'm thinking some of them have to be responsive because that's why they sent them, right?
Some of them are, but I tried to circumvent the production of massive volumes of documents
Right.
by saying in Exhibit A.
Right.
I've been told by several knowledgeable sources,
Right.
and documents indicate as well, that there is a police report the BOE received.
Right.
I made it pretty clear what I was seeking.
Okay. All right. I think I get it. It's about 12.
Harmon,
Yes.
if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Hardison states that he made clear what he was asking for, and somehow the district should have read his mind that he didn't care about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullets of different information requests that he made, which he never withdrew. So I just want to be clear that in good faith, the Darien Public Schools responded to this expansive information request, and it is simply ridiculous to say that because he said he heard that we have a police report, that the production in accordance with the Freedom of Information Law in response to his voluminous request was somehow irrelevant.
Attorney Harmon, if I may say one thing about that.
Yeah.
I have learned in dealing with Mr. Mooney in the district that if I don't make my FOIA request as expansive as possible to include everything I can think of, they somehow will circumvent my FOIA request and I won't get what I'm seeking. It's sad, but it's true.
All right, guys. I get it. I think I got my arms around this case pretty well. Thank you all for participating. This was a very good hearing, a very smooth telephonic hearing. They're not all this smooth, so I have a lot of experienced people on the phone. But I'm going to close it out. It's 12:14, and thank you again. Thank you, Ms. Cion, Mr. Hardison, and Attorney Mooney. Okay? I think we'll let that be the last word.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.